Are we ready to play ball? You're ready? All right, good. Brace yourself. We have something fun and exciting for you. Are you ready to catch? Who's ready to catch? Come on. We need a bit more energy. Let's see. Let's see what your skills look like. Let's see. Come on. You got this, girl. There we go. Can I have this back? Excellent. So we're ready. Come on, are you ready? Shake it out. Are we ready? Are we ready? Come on. We have a great panel lineup for you. We have industry experts. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our panelists. We have Dr. Yao Bediako, who is the CEO of Yamachi Biotech. Can we put our hands together for him? Come on, let's encourage him this morning. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We have Mrs. Julie Asante Dati, who's Executive Director of Agri Impact. We have Miss Irabna Ajiman, who's the CEO of Ware Ghana Limited. And last but not the least, we have Ofori Antipem, who's the CEO of Dex Technology. Come on, guys, come on. If you want to win this ball, you got to do a bit better. Put your hands together for these people. We have, 30 minutes of a stimulating conversation. Before then, look in your bags. If you're in person, you should have a book. And I believe if you're virtual as well, you should have a digital copy of the book. So you should have your notebooks, everyone. If we have a notebook, say yes, so we know we're ready to go. So we're going to take key notes. We're going to pay attention, take notes, because you will have an opportunity for Q&A, both in person and virtual. Make sure you can send your questions as well. My panelists, are you ready?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Come on, I want to hear your voice. Dex, yes?
Yes, very ready.
Irabna, yes?
Absolutely.
Julie?
For sure.
Dr. Bediako?
Yes, very
And
ready.
Hillary is ready. Let's go right into it. The tagline for this conference is Taking Action, Creating Prosperity. What does this mean to you? How do our actions create prosperity? And what actions can we take to attain prosperity? Dr. Bediako.
So thank you very much. It's great to be here, and thanks to Lucy for convening this meeting. As a scientist, I believe creating value or creating prosperity has to start with generating knowledge, but not simply generating knowledge for the sake of it, generating knowledge that we can register, intellectual property that can be registered, that we can get credit for. In Africa, often we view research as purely academic. So we think of it as what people do in universities or at places like Noguchi, KCCR. These are really important places of academic research. These are really important places of training. But if you look around the world, a lot of science happens in business. 75% of the US research, R&D, actually does not happen in universities. It happens in businesses. And the reason for that is when you do research, you can generate knowledge that you can then own. And when someone else takes that knowledge to develop a product, guess what? They have to pay you a royalty, or they have to pay you a license. So as a scientist who was doing academic research, who had come back to Ghana, I was uncomfortable with the fact that I felt we're not building any value. Only 2% of outputs in science come from Africa, even though we account for 14% of the world's population and 25% of the world's disease burden. So at Yamachi, what we are trying to do is to understand the global problem, which is cancer, but to do it through generating knowledge that we can own. And in so doing, we build value locally. And the more of the research we do locally, the more of the process that we own. And so the more the commercial value we retain. But that is not to make ourselves rich. That is so that we can invest that in an ecosystem locally in Africa that can begin to be more sustainable. So at Yamachi, we're trying to solve global problems from Africa with a uniquely African perspective, but importantly, retaining the value in Africa, and so building forward and really building a bold new normal.
Thank you, Julie.
Yes, for me, taking action for prosperity means that you would have to get up and get started. You would have to get involved. You can't do this passively. So you really need to get involved, and you really need to get going. What we are trying to do at Agri Impact to create value and to create wealth is that we are promoting innovation uptake. We are promoting productivity and enhancing methodologies that would bring about a transformational change in agriculture. We cannot feed ourselves if we continue to leave agric in the hands of aged, uneducated, or less educated people. We need people with knowledge, with skills, with intellect to get involved in agric, and then we can begin to see the changes. I mean, we cannot continue to import over $2 billion worth of the basics: rice, tomatoes, onions. Can you imagine that we import tomatoes from Burkina Faso and onions? They are north of Ghana. There isn't much rainfall there more rainfall there than there is in Ghana. So why should we be buying truckloads, over 24 trucks a day of tomatoes can come from Burkina Faso? Why? They are also like us. So what is different? It's because we are not adopting productivity enhancing methodologies. And so that is our passion at AgriImpact, that agric has to be cool. I mean, I need people to see that there's more to agric than just the farmer with the hoe and dirty clothing. Really, there can be, you can make good money in agric. And so that is really our passion. And that's how we can create wealth for Ghana.
Thank you. Expect me on the tractor soon on your farmland. Hey, Ravna, yes.
Yes, so I really love how deliberate the tagline is. Taking action, creating prosperity. It shows that the prosperity is being created, it's intentional. And when we are creating something, then we get to determine how much of it we want. I don't think that an impoverished Africa makes sense at all. If you look at the arable lands, if you look at the mineral resources, if you look at just how strong the African is, I think anything less than an Africa that is so prosperous that its surpluses support other continents, it just doesn't make sense. And in the book, Lucy challenges this goal of eradicating poverty, because it's like, what kind of goal is this, really? And so at work, now we show up to work every day to ensure that when people who are doing great work, Africans who believe in Africa, who are solving Africa's problems, that when they show up in the world, they look like the way you are looking. Like people who believe in Africa, who represent the continent. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ofori.
Thank you very much. And I'm really, really happy to be here, to be part of this August panel. Allow me to tell you a very short story, one of my favorite stories. So a few years ago, there was a science teacher in a village in Ghana who wanted to help inspire his son to study science. Now, unfortunately, he had a problem. He did not have a science lab. And so what he found was just like a bottle and a funnel. And he used this to create a rain gauge. So he used this to help his son do a simple experiment, inspiring his son at the end of the day to go and study engineering in university. Now, this young man, wanting to solve the problem his dad was facing, was able to create an innovation that shrunk a $10,000 lab into a $10 box. Now, the innovation that he created was small enough that it could fit into a bag, but it could teach students to do experiments in energy, robotics, you name it. Now, why do I tell you this story? First and foremost, it's my story. I was a young child who was inspired by his son to study science. Thank you very much. But also, all of this happened in the space of a decade. In 10 years, think about it. The students in the hometown, my hometown in Suatra, where I'm from, went from not having a science lab to learning about robotics using a science lab that was in their bags in 10 years. So when I hear the tagline of creating prosperity for Africa and taking action, it's so real to me. I believe, in fact, I know it is possible to create a prosperity, and it's possible to do it in our lifetime. And so I'm so excited about this movement.
Thank you, guys. I know that first round of questions was exciting. Wasn't it exciting?
Yes.
All right, who wants to catch? You have your notebooks? Are we sending our questions? Yeah, who's ready to catch? Wake up. Let's see, are we ready? She's high energy. You ready? Whoa. Oh, fantastic. Let's see if I can catch. Awesome, excellent. So we're ready, thank you. So, how do we shape the mindset we need as a collective to succeed? How do we open our minds to change? Dr. Bediako?
I think it starts with realizing that there's a problem, but also realizing that you can't just talk about the problem, you have to begin to do something. I think in Ghana, we like to complain, we like to talk about our problems, but there's sometimes that inertia to just do the hard step of actually trying to solve the problem and not waiting for someone else to do it. Um, I always, I'm an academic, so I always start in the university. Um, lately, in fact, last week I said something that was a little bit controversial. I said universities don't create jobs. University creates future unemployed people. So, no offense to anybody who is in university. I'm one of you as well. But think about it carefully. We train, we send them out there hoping to find jobs, but we don't actually find them jobs. And that is fine. That is what universities are supposed to do. So our science, if it is going to lead to economic development, if we are going to see this revolution and this development of Africa, then African science has to do more than train future unemployed scientists. Because guess what? If they're unemployed, they'll find jobs elsewhere. And we see that the brain drain in healthcare alone costs Africa $2 billion every year. So what I felt was, how do I make science job creating? And that, once again, is by doing science to solve problems, but not simply to train people, but as a business. And so I think that when you think about what that mindset, I had to switch from complaining about the fact that all my students are leaving Ghana and going abroad, to how can I keep my students here? Or how can I at least start something that will help retain students here? And that mind shift of going from seeing the problem and waiting for someone else to do it, and then stepping forward and trying to do my bit to do something about it, I think was the most important step. And it's a scary step, because I was moving out of my comfort zone. I was doing something that everybody thought was crazy. I was doing probably the hardest thing I've ever done, and continues to be the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was my attempt to not accept the status quo. And I think as African people, no matter what our sector is, we need to start realizing, like Ofori said, the time is now. It's not tomorrow, it's now. And I'll end with the final thing that made me decide to try to start my company. Was I felt it was such a good idea that if I didn't do it, in about 3 to 5 years, one of my students would do it. And I'll be sitting in a corner saying, ah! And I was like, I'd go to them for a job. And I didn't want to put myself through that kind of indignity. So I did it because I didn't want someone else to do it, and I'll be an old man saying, minimum. So, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Okay. I would say that mindset change involves 3 things: our beliefs, our values, and our attitudes. So to change our mindset, we need to change all of these 3 things. And our belief systems, what do we think is possible? We can't continue to just be staring problems in the face and say that it's too difficult. Get going and get started. And believe that you are a solution provider. You can make a difference. It doesn't matter how small. Through our collective efforts, the small can become something significant. And so we are out there proving to people that it is doable. Other challenges, trust me, if I want to tell you the difficulties we face, we'll be here all day. You can lose a whole greenhouse of vegetables to some simple disease that you missed. And then just like that, your crop is gone. And it's thousands of Ghana cedis gone in a second. So do we give up? No. You would have to persist at it and find solutions and better ways of getting things done. So the mindset change would have to start with us. And for us to think that we all can contribute something positively to the challenges that we are having in Ghana. When you read tweets and things like that, I say, wow, Ghanaians are creative. The way we are able to put problems in the simplest of forms and even joke about it. If we channeled all that into finding solutions to our problems, we would really achieve something very significant. So for me, I think that we need to change our minds from, oh, this is too big a problem, there's nothing I can do. Please start. What you do would contribute something very significant to solving the problem. And let's all get involved. I say again, agric is the way to go. So much of what we eat in Ghana is brought in. Our industries don't have enough. We can't even feed ourselves. Please come join us, get your hands dirty, and we will change the fortunes of the continent.
Thank you. Thank you. Ravna?
So for me, a mindset, is a mind that is set. It's a conclusion that has been drawn. And often these conclusions are passed down to us by our parents or teachers or society. And I'm sure if anyone is here and was in tech or Legon, you would remember how you'd all go to school as freshers. You meet a boy who is very shy and very, very shy until he's placed in Katanga. And then suddenly this shy boy has become this very, I don't want to use rowdy, but you know how I mean. And it's because there's an identity that is crafted around what it means to be a Katangese. So no matter how shy he is, when it's time to be Katangese, all of the elements align. And I think that as Africans, as an Africa that's trying to change what we currently are, we need to go back to the drawing table and ask of ourselves, who do we want to be? What are the values that will help us to get to where we want to go to? What are the things that we need? And then we start identifying as those things. Just like that shy boy who identifies with Katanga and suddenly is the boldest guy, we start identifying as those things. And we start saying it to ourselves. We are the kind of people who show up on time. We are the most honest people you will find on the planet. We are the wealthiest continent you will ever find. And we start to urgently resist every mindset that doesn't align with this thing that we are trying to build. And I think that that's a blueprint of taking a mindset and using it to take us to where we want to get to.
Thank you. Thank you. Ofori?
Thank you. I'm a proud Katangi, by the way. Charge. So I would approach this from a very practical standpoint. What are the direct steps that we can take to begin this process of mindset change? I see it as three main things: identity, problem solving, and wealth creation. On the side of identity, some of the most practical things we can do have to do with what we wear, what we eat, and what we listen to. So, as you can see, all of us are beautifully clothed in Wear Ghana. Now, something as simple as that, deciding that, okay, I'm going to build my identity, I'm going to be proud of my African identity. And the way I'm going to do that is to wear African print, not just only on Fridays, but 3 times in a week. A simple step like that. If you, go to, Spotify or Boomplay, you intentionally go listen to your Ghanaian music, listen to your African music. Simple steps like that. If you're looking at problem solving, perhaps in your community there's a zebra crossing that is faded away. Can you decide one weekend to work with people in your community to buy 1 bucket of paint and then just paint it back there? Simple steps like that. I believe when we take them, we'll gradually build up to help us form that mindset that we need. Madam talked about the fact that the big problem, when you focus on it, right? It can seem intimidating, but you need to begin from somewhere. And I think taking practical steps like that in our everyday lives is how we can begin to build this mindset we need.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Bediako, how do we encourage ourselves to do it afraid? Please share some practical steps on how you established Yamachi.
So I think it's first important to recognize there's nothing wrong with being afraid. In fact, if you're not afraid, you're not doing something that's hard enough, right? The whole concept of the bold new normal, it's bold, right? So you have to be courageous. So first of all, embrace the fear. If you're not fearful, or if it doesn't trigger fear, then I think you're not actually out of your comfort zone. So push yourself further. But once you begin to feel those pangs that this is hard, personally, the first thing to do is identify the problem you are trying to address. There's nothing worse than having all this energy going in all the wrong directions. It needs to be focused. So the first step is identify clearly what is the area, the sector that I want to get into, and why do I want to get into it, and what problem am I solving? I think you need to be a little bit deliberate about planning your energy, right? So planning where you're going to move. So that's step one. Second step is get advice. There are lots of people who have expertise in these areas, who have maybe not done exactly what you are doing, but at least have expertise you don't have. I'm a PhD, I have science, I know, I've trained in science. but I knew I was starting a business. So I began to get introductions to people, including Lucy, actually. I reached out to try to get, because I knew what I was doing was going to be very hard, and I thought, who are the best people who I can get information from? I said, well, the first female executive in a telecom is probably a good place to start. So she was one of the people I went to. Bright Simmons is another person I went to for advice. Now, these are people who have blazed a trail, who are not afraid to tell you what they think and will tell you if your idea is rubbish. So put yourself in front of those people. And I would say Yamachi is a result of all that shaping. Yamachi is very different from what the first idea I had. The third thing is recognize you can't do it alone. If your idea is truly groundbreaking, you're going to need help. Find a good team. One of my co-founders, David Hartfield, is sitting right here. I went to him with the idea, actually not to try to get him to join initially, just to get his advice. He was one of those people I went to for advice. He heard about the idea. He thought, this sounds like something I want to be part of. Let's do it together. David has great expertise in areas I don't. He's a software engineer, design thinker. I'm an immunologist. But together, our visions of what we want to build have coalesced into a company that does multiple things besides just basic immunology, like what I'm trained in. And beyond David, we have a huge team of really talented leaders themselves. And together we make Yamachi. So Yamachi has 4 co-founders, but in truth, we probably have about 8 or 9, maybe 10, I would say, founders, because each of us has different expertise that we bring to the table. The final thing is don't take no for an answer. It can be extremely discouraging. However convinced you are, there will be those who say no. I spoke to every high net worth person in Ghana, at least I think I did. None of them gave me money to support Yamachi. I don't say this to shame them, I just say that is what it was. Right. They were not interested. They thought it was a great idea. They were happy to, play around with it. But when it came to making an investment, I had to look elsewhere. But I didn't let that discourage me. In fact, I took it as a learning process. Pitching to those people made my pitch better, because every time I got a no, I went back and revised my pitch. But by refusing to accept no, gradually I began to build traction, and we did raise, and we will continue to raise, and we will continue to grow. So the final piece is don't take no for an answer. Believe in your vision, believe that what you're doing is what you are called to do, and just keep pushing no matter how hard it seems, and trust God that eventually the right doors will open, and you begin to see success. But it's a hard journey. Be prepared for that. But don't take no for an answer.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So the lady who feeds us, and some of us have great appreciation for food, so we really like you. So a lot of people cite issues. I mean, you make agriculture sound glamorous. Like I said, I'm ready to be on the tractor and just come and get a photo shoot on your farm. But some people cite land issues. We've had people who discourage you and say, oh, Hillary, you only have an acre. You can't do much. If it's not going to be large scale, don't even bother. I mean, I saw the numbers. Imports is staggering. Like you said, rice, oil, pepper, tomatoes. I mean, come on. I think even I can figure out how to grow a tomato. So please tell us, how do we go about it? I mean, how did you face the challenges? How did you start? Just how can we also get involved?
Okay, I would say the issue of land, it is a big challenge in Ghana because of our land tenure system. Lands are in the hands of families, of traditional leaders, and sometimes it's very difficult to get like a big continuum of land to get started. But you don't really need that as an individual to get started. I was telling Ofori this morning, what is the point of doing 10 hectares that you cannot manage well, and then get very little from that? Trust me, if you started with 2, and you did what you were told to do, you are likely to get from the 2 hectares what you get from the 10. Because you would ask the farmer to plant in lines, and then they would tell you that takes too much time, so I'll broadcast. Okay, so throw the seeds around. They will germinate. That's the beauty about Ghana. You can put corn in your backyard and be sure it will germinate. But are you going to get the yields? So you're supposed to get 20 bags, and you get 5. And then you say farming is not attractive, it's not profitable. So for us, it was about getting started, getting the information to make the right decisions. Agric is a science. It is not for people who don't have anything to do. It is not for people who are on retirement. Usually when people are going on retirement, then they want to think about, okay, what can I do? Okay, I want to go into agric. Believe you me, you give up. because it's not for the faint-hearted. So you need to come into agric with energy, with passion, with the commitment to do the right. I think that is what is missing in Ghana. The fancy attitude. They say go at 7, they'll come at 9. And oh, and yes, it's around the same time. You can't do that because at 7 is when the insect that will destroy your crop will come out. If you stay in your bed or do whatever and get there at 9, when they say scout, you go around and you see nothing. That doesn't mean the insect is not there. It's hiding. It will come again at 7, and by the time you realize your crop is gone, and then it is that agric is not profitable. When they say put 2 liters, please don't put 1.5, and neither should you put 3. It says 2 to a gallon. Do 2 to a gallon. Doing that at 7, you do it at 7. Plant in rows, scout, and so there are very specific things that you have to do. And so if you want to make a difference in agric, first, what is the point of doing 1 hectare of land, and then you use farmer safe seeds and you get 4 bags? When there's an improved seed and you can get 20 bags, it costs 200 cedis. So because of the 200 cedis, you would sacrifice the 10 additional bags because of 200 cedis. Yes, you need seeds. Yes, you need fertilizer. Yes, you need technology and training. But if you do all these things and your starting material is not right, you are in trouble. Government said planting for exports. And can you imagine what people did? People who had no knowledge in seedling production just got excited, got planting, but they didn't even bother to find out where the materials came from. So do you know what had happened? They've gone to buy planting materials from trees that are 4 years old. For a tree to start fruiting, you should have taken your plant material from a tree that is 10 years old. You've gotten one that is 4. So trust me, for the next 6 years, you're going to be staring at that plant and it will give you zero yields. And so these are the problems we are having in agric and why people are not seeing results. So for us, of course, my training is in agric. You come to my organization, we have a lot of people who train in agric. We've trained, but we are constantly learning. And so you can imagine if you have no knowledge and then people come and say, what do you want to say? Anything. You won't get started. Know about it, learn, spend the time, build your skill, let people tell you about the issues, what to avoid, where to plant, how to plant, and all those things are important. And so that is what we've been doing to try to make sure that what we do will be productive. It's not about doing, it's doing it effectively so that you can see profit. You are better prepared to manage risk because they would come, and then you can see your outputs leading to proper revenues and proper turnaround. Otherwise, we would not make progress. So I think I would end here, and then when people have questions.
Thank you. Rabna, so make a case for wearing Ghana. You know, a lot of people say, why do I have to only wear Ghana when I have options? I'm a consumer, there's so much in the world. Make a case for wear Ghana.
Please allow me to read my answers for this. It's too important. So why should people wear Ghana? Or wear Africa for that matter? Because I think we can all agree that we need money the most in the world. How do I know? Since I was a child, I've never seen presidents from other continents come to my president to ask him for money. I mean, they come and take away from us in all sorts of interesting ways. But when my finance minister reads his budget, regardless of which party is in power, a significant part of his expenditure is financed by monies he will go and beg for. So we need money. And what is a dress? It's a product. It's a product that is made with resources and sold for income. This income is used to pay for inputs used in making it, used to create jobs, used to support an economy. So if we will at the very least follow the money trail, we will realize that it makes a lot of sense for us to spend the money we have buying clothes from here. I mean, why on earth would we want to enrich another economy and then go and beg them to give us some coins? But for me, that's not even the most important thing. A dress is also a solution to a very important problem. The challenge that we cannot be sane and show up in the world stark naked. So a dress is a solution. Every product is a solution. And when the African lives in a world where all her problems are being solved for her by others, it creates a mindset of ineptitude. It tells her that she is incapable. And this story then shows up in all sorts of ways and becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When she goes to shop, as long as there's something that's not made here, it is quality. When she is educated, she becomes as an African as possible. Simply put, she despises herself. Why? Because she has been made to believe that she is less than, incapable, a problem, and not a solution. This is why we need to wear Ghana. Because when we do, we remind ourselves and the world around us that we are beyond capable of solving our own problems. So that's for the Wear Ghana movement. Now, for Wear Ghana, the brand, we are building Africa's most loved brand. We are using the business of fashion to promote and celebrate African excellence, inspire the next generation of African excellence, and create opportunities for women. We are making products that allow people to express their belief in this continent. And we are ensuring that when these products are put to products coming from anywhere in the world, that they win. The number of times we hear stories of our customers being stopped in traffic in New York, in London, in South Africa, and being complimented for their outfits, their giggies, it's countless times. And if you ask me why, I would say it's because we are magic as Africans. And when we go to production with these burning desires about how we unleash our African magic to the world, we are simply unstoppable.
Thank
Unmatched.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're wrapping up our panel with one last question. Favorite expression of mine, Yenara Assassini. How do we revive patriotism? How do we move from the focus of self to the greater good of all? You have 1 minute to answer that. Yes, you do. Let's go.
1 minute, let's see. Patriotism is profitable.
That's
And
powerful.
I say this because that was the experience that I had. When we started, this whole science set, it didn't start by us just wanting to build a business. We're thinking about how we could help students in my community, right, perform science experiments. And so during the vacation, we'd save up money and then we'd go to the village and then would bring them together and do experiments with them. And it was through that we realized that, if we could put all of this in a box and do this and do that, it could be something that students could use all across. And just by that act of not thinking about ourselves, but thinking of how we could impact others, today we have hundreds of schools in Ghana and up to 700 schools in the UK that are using our product. And so patriotism is profitable.
Thank you. On that note, what a panel. Can we put our hands together for our spirited panelists? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now we have a 20-minute Q&A from our virtual audience and for our in-person audience. Please make sure you put your phones on silent so we don't interrupt them. Thank you so much. I do have a question from the virtual. In-person people, get ready. Virtual already sent a question. The question is from Samuel Paga. He says, assuming you just completed university and you have some great ideas which could help in transforming the economy, how will one be able to gain capital as a student? Who would like to take that? Sure.
My story was somewhat similar to that. For us, what we did was that we looked for one school because our product was obviously meant to be used in the classroom or by parents in their houses. But we started with just one school. We looked for a school. We showed them our product. Even before we knew how to manufacture it, we went to them and then showed it to them, showed them the experiments, and then asked them if they would want it. Lucky for us, they loved it and told us, yes, when we make it and bring it, they would pay for it. So we asked them to collect the money and then let us know when the money is ready. And then as soon as that happened, we then went to family and friends. And when we went to them, we didn't say, I want to start this business, and so give me money. We said, there is somebody who is willing to give me money if I give them this product. So please give me this amount, let me manufacture it and send it to them. And through that, we were able to raise our first seed capital. And then we sort of scaled up from there, from 1 school to 10 schools to 20 schools. So what I would say is find someone who's willing to pay for whatever you have.
Right.
And then that can be your yardstick to raise funds.
Thank you, thank you. All right, we started with a virtual question. In-person people, who has a question? You gotta catch this first to be able to ask a question. Are you ready? Yes, you must. There we go. Fantastic. Please ask a question.
All right, so good to be here. Hilary, good to see you.
You too.
Thank you for inviting me.
So it's not a question per se, it's a challenge to Lucy and to your panelists. I know Rabna and I know Julie. So pleasure to meet you, Charles, and to Doc as well. So there's the Africa Sustainability Summit coming up next year in April 2023. Ghana is going to be the country to host it. So I'm really proud about that. Now, there are four huge global trends, and I'm happy you've mentioned a couple of them. The first one is proud of my heritage. We can see it everywhere, and I'm actually proud to be wearing my Wear Ghana today. So my challenge to you, Arabna, is to take Wear Ghana. There's another trend, which is experience and delight. Create for us some delightful designs that come the Sustainability Summit. I want to see how Wear Ghana creates prosperity for Africa. And I will go to the organizers and say, listen, we want to project Africa rising. Secondly, I'm coming to you, Julie. It's good you mentioned the Greek, because again, proud of my heritage. Eat what we grow. I want you to come up. Whatever you're doing today is all good. Creative solutions that brings excitement and delight to the dining table in Ghana. That is my challenge to you. To our two scientists, I'm happy to have you here because there are two trends that I think you can hone on. The first one is holistic wellness. You all know about that. I needn't go into details. The second is the Internet of Things. You also know about that because COVID has heightened it. What can the two of you bring? A solution that targets holistic wellness, but solved through the internet. This is my challenge. So I want 3 creative, innovative, talkability solutions to project us at the Africa Sustainability Summit coming up in April 2023. You say Africa is magical. I believe you can do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have another question in-house before we take? Our virtual audience is really active. All righty. Are you ready? Do you need to stretch it out a bit? All righty. Excellent. Wonderful. There we go.
Arabna, well done. I really like your answer to, using local people to solve local problems. I think it's a very good idea. So first I want to find out, most of the prints that we use, I know a lot of them are imported. Even though they're African print, most of them are imported. And so the print that you use, are they really manufactured in Ghana? And if they are not, or they are, how do we promote manufacturing African prints in Ghana so that when we wear them, we know that we're actually wearing made in Ghana goods?
Thank you. Sure. Follow up? Okay.
Are trying to find the answer to this question. That is it because, let's say, when you take a dress, because it's sewn in Ghana, it's a made in Ghana, where every single thing that was used in making that dress is imported. And we also try to have an answer to this question. Do we always have value for money for things that are made in Ghana? And the other question is, why are things made in Ghana so expensive? Is it expensive because we want to say, because it's of high value, that's why it's so expensive? Or because the things that we are putting together to get it done are imported? For instance, that's why it takes so much. So at the end of the day, it's all about money. If I can use 50 cedis to get something quality, and I have to spend 250 to get something made in Ghana, A friend, once I said that patriotism, said, Izzy, where did you hear? It's a long time. I don't remember the last time I heard the word patriotism. And if we are talking about money, saving costs and all that, what is that thing that will make somebody want to spend so much on something, then at the end of the day, you are not getting value for whatever?
Thank you. And before Arabna answers, it's interesting that she says that, you know the Apple phone? It's from where? It's an American phone, right? It says it's American, but every other part of it, I'm not justifying, but every other part is made elsewhere. And then number two, I personally believe that for the Africa we want, for the continent we desire, there's got to be a level of sacrifice. And that level of sacrifice sometimes comes with paying a little bit more for what we have versus what we import. And I've done that in a few instances as well. And I'm trying to come full circles where I get away from importing detergent to using local detergent as well. And you pay a bit more extra for that. So Rabna, please answer this question.
So first of all, thank you very much for asking those questions. When we started, I remember how we would say to our customers, we do not use high target. I'm sorry, I've mentioned the brand, but we do not use the imported, how can it be imported African prints? And there was a lot of fighting, but it's cheaper. Why won't you use that one? For us, this thing we are doing, it's a vehicle. The Wear Ghana company, it's a vehicle through which we express the belief that we have in this continent. So we could not use fabric that wasn't made here. And it is true what you say that, okay, so the print is made there. So first of all, when you buy anything made from Wear Ghana, 90% chance of the time it's GTP, otherwise it's ATL, or it's batik from here. Why did we choose for our flagship product, the Gigi, to put the print only in this small place when it could have been a full African print thing? We tried different things. We started as a bespoke brand, and we realized that there are many people who do not want to show up as Africans. And they didn't want an outfit that was all African print. So rather than sit and cry and shout at them, wear it, wear it, wear it, we went to the drawing table and designed something that people who usually would not wear anything made from here will wear it. And the success of the collection speaks for itself. At the end of the day, a lot of the resources we are using are imported. And here's where economies of scale comes in to answer the question that you ask. If I'm producing 10 outfits a day, and I'm even selling it at 1,000 cedis, no matter how big my profit margin is, overhead costs tend to be constant. If I'm producing more of it, if I'm producing millions of it, now even if I'm earning 1 Ghana cedi on each one, guess what? It's 1 million. Why would I produce 1 million pieces of clothing that will not get bought because the African does not want to show up wearing anything made from here? So at the end of the day, we all really are the solution to this problem. People who produce here on the continent, trust me, it's always a sacrifice. People are barely making it. Many of my colleague entrepreneurs are people with options. People who have come from being educated across the world and have decided, Dr. Yao is an example of this. They have options. And they come here, and it's usually a labor of love. What we do as consumers is to meet them halfway. Because we do it this generation, and by the next generation, our children are sorted. It's normal that we buy everything from here. But it calls for sacrifice, not only from the producer, but from the consumer as well. We as consumers are so powerful, and we do not know this. We create brands. We sit here in Africa and create global brands without knowing it. Chinese have come here. They are manufacturing parks, industrial parks. They are producing millions of things. We are buying them as Africa because they've written made in China. We will not do the same for made in Africa. And until we do, we don't get to complain. And finally, a challenge to us, the producers. It has to be value for money. Because I can't come here and say, oh, buy it because of patriotism only. The clothing has to be great. It has to look good before we tell the story of what it is about. It has to stand the test of time. So once again, thanks for asking those questions.
Thank you, thank you. Let me be fair to my online viewers. And online viewers, if you'd like to project on video, raise your hand and we can have you on video to ask your question. All right, it says, great panelists. Can Bold New Normal expand its tentacles by creating a Kickstarter or GoFund equivalent for startups in Africa, Ghana, with a strict verification process to avoid fraud, misuse of the platform? I think this is to the panelists and also to the visionary of the Bold New Normal. So Lucy, do you want to chime in here?
I don't have my mic on, but I hope you can hear me. Brilliant, thank you. So hopefully, good, you can hear me now. Great question. And I've actually made a note of it as it was being asked. Because we're here to take action and create prosperity. And so if we can come together and actually create something, we will. But I'm not saying we are going to, I'm saying we will come together. We need people who are willing and able to partner and participate. And so the ideas that come out of here where we can help as a Bold New Normal movement, because I can tell you there's so many people already signed up to the movement, we will. But it's a great idea. We need to start funding ourselves, and we need to be able to capitalize on the fact that, look, there are over 1 billion people in sub-Saharan Africa. There are over, I think over all over Africa, I think it's like 1.2 or 1.3 billion. Imagine if we were willing to, each one of us, just contribute 100 cedis to a fund. Just 100 cedis to see one entrepreneur do well and they pay back and another entrepreneur do well. But it goes back to the idea that we've got to believe in the African. We've got to believe in you. We've got to believe in me. Don't generalize. If you see these panelists sitting here and you believe in them, they're African like you and I. So if it's possible to believe in them, it's possible to believe in someone else.
Thank you, thank you. So this is from Alfred Affle. Sure, you may.
I think one thing I'd like to add is, yes, there needs to be support, and we need to get people, wanting to fund African projects. But another thing is, as African entrepreneurs, make sure that your idea is solid. There are too many people who get up and say, I want to start a business, or I want to start a product, and they haven't thought it through. It's derivative. It's what they are doing in America. You just want to come and do it here. You want to create another Amazon. Why? Right? I mean, David complains about this all the time because he teaches, students who are designing software. But the point is, there's a reason why people like Bezos, Jobs, Gates have achieved a success. Is because they honed the idea. They were willing to work at it. And it was a brilliant idea. So we have the capacity to have brilliant ideas, but we also have the capacity to have a lot of bad ideas. And so you need to make sure that, this is what goes back to the advice and the sort of testing your idea. Make sure that it's actually good before you try to get people to support it. Because the worst thing that will happen is a bunch of bad ideas come, they fail, and then people say, we see, he told you, Africans can't do it. Right? So I think we need to take the time to think very critically about what you want to do. Be your own worst critic. Go through every possible reason why it's a bad idea and convince yourself through improving your idea that this is actually worth it. And then go out there and do everything it takes to make it work. But the first step, we have to be self-critical. I see this a lot in colleagues in science and other areas. We are not self-critical enough. Just because you're in Africa and it's an African idea doesn't mean it's good. And so we need to be really critical. Because let's face it, we are up against odds that no one else faces. It's hard to be a business in Africa. In fact, it's harder than maybe anywhere else. So the idea has to be extra good. Great example is, look at Barack Obama, look at Donald Trump. Two men who became president of the United States. Look what it took for the black man to become president. Look at the caliber of human being it took. The same is true of African businesses. The businesses that will succeed in Africa are going to have to be the best in the world. And so make sure your idea is that good.
Thank you. Julie, I'll have you chime in before. Thank you. Our online viewers are very active, so I'll have Julie chime in before I take a few more.
I just wanted to quickly add that, especially in Ghana, money is very expensive. It doesn't come cheap. So please, people tend to think the solution to my problem is that I need finance. No. As he said, your idea, the processes, the knowledge, what would work, the critiquing of your idea. People have not spent the time understanding what they want to get into. And then the first thing they shout is, oh, there's nobody finance. No, no. The money would come, you will lose it, and then you can't find people funding startups because startups fail. And that's because we haven't done the work. So please, the first thing we need to get started is not the money. Because money is very expensive, and any expensive item, you have to think before you go for it. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Rabbi, I have a few questions for you, but before then, Dex, Afo Alfred says, please, I want to ask, if you have a low level of education, does that mean you can't do anything? It sounds like everyone here is really highly educated, and I think it was a very important question.
That is a very important question. I think it has very little to do with making impact, whether or not you are well educated. It helps a lot if you are, but it's not the only way you can make impact. And so I do not have a PhD like Dr. Das, but I'm doing my own thing. And I'm sure there are other people who are also perhaps not even at the education level that I am, who are also doing awesome things. So you do not have to have a great education before you can make impact.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have, oh, my lady. I'm sure, Belinda is giving me evil eyes. We need to be quick with this. There we go. Fantastic.
And I feel like keeping it actually.
You just might be lucky. There we go. Ask your question.
Thank you very much. Is it on? Okay. So the name is Akusia Zwanis, and my question is actually a challenge, not a question. Oftentimes, when you see young startups, they talk about financing. I'm a product of mentorship, coaching, and Doc rightly put it. When he wanted to start his business, he had to go to Lucy. He had to speak to certain experts in the industry. My challenge is, how accessible are these people? How accessible are these people to the person in something?
I like
we
that.
all need ideas. We all need to speak to the right people. So my challenge, once again, is to Lucy. If you're considering GoFundMe like the person suggested, we should also look at people who will mentor people. Mentor her, mentor him. Series that will mentor people who want to go into a Greek, people who want to do Ghana stuff, people who want to start robotics, people who want to solve the issue of cancer. We need mentors, we need Doc, we need all of you on it. And for me, it's a challenge to all of us. It starts with us. Thank you very much.
Donko Bejiatre. Lucy? Yes.
Okay.
Well,
look, I think it's a valid point. I always tell people that no one is self-made. At least I certainly am not. I benefit from people mentoring and guiding me. So yes, I agree. People should be more accessible. We do have some organizations that aggregate professionals and experienced people. I do have to plug EWN, Executive Women Network, as an example, where we do provide mentorship to people. But again, it's a group of very professional, experienced women. So I agree, and I encourage everybody who can to do more. But two things I'll add. One is, sometimes you don't need to hear from the most senior of people to challenge your idea. So you don't have to only go to, unless I get an audience with him or her, there's no one else I can talk to. Maybe that person is so far away from where you are. You need someone who's mid-career, someone who also actually has good insight. It's just that you haven't heard their name. Don't fall for, I just have to hear the name, so I have to go and talk to them. That's number one. Number two is, please value the time you get with people. Don't go and ask them things like, so I'm working, and then, my friends say we should have fun. So, madam, what should I do about it? You have to make sure that engagement is a serious, it doesn't mean that we can't have light conversation. We can't say, how are your children and so on. But also make sure that time you're extracting the most out of the person at that time, so that you walk away with the benefit. Because, they've highlighted something very important. Money is not the first thing people need. People need to sharpen their skills. They need to stop being lazy. They need to become better organized. They need to be orderly. They need to be structured. They need to have plans. There's so many things people need before money, but they jump until the money has come, then they'll go and lie down somewhere and sleep. I'm sorry, but if you're not staying up at night over your innovation, over your idea, you're not serious.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a powerful way to end this panel. We have so many questions, so I'm going to ask us, the organizers, we have so many virtual questions. So what we'll do is that my virtual audience, I'm going to make sure that I follow up on this. We will submit your questions to our panelists and make sure they send you a written response since you're signed up, because we have quite a lot of questions. At this moment, we'd also like to acknowledge our sponsors who have made today possible. They powered this. We want to put our hands together for APSA for making this possible. We want to say thank you also to Blisco, MTN, Type. Thank you so much. APSA, Blisco, MTN, Type. We could not have done this without you. We're so, so thankful, thankful, thankful. My panelists do not leave. We would like to make a presentation to you. I know that I'm standing between you and break, but this is very important. You give to God what is due to God, and to Caesar what is due to Caesar. So thank you so much to our great panelists. Would also like to call on Luigi McLean as well, to thank him as well. Luigi, please come. So as you can see, even the gift is intentional. This is intentional. I know it because I patronize it. It's made in Ghana. So thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Dext Technology. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your input. Dr. Bediako, thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Julie. To the lady who feeds us. Come on, put your hands together for her. Thank you. Thank you so much. And to our Irabna who dresses us, and we're all going to wear Ghana. Thank you so, so much. And one more time, let's put our hands together for our phenomenal panelists. Like I said, virtual viewers will get your questions answered. If you're here as well and you need a question answered, please make a note. We'll take a note and make sure that we get your response. It's time for a tea break. Please don't get on your phone and just call home. Time for a tea break. Before our tea break, we'll take a photo. But during the tea break, make sure you network. Get to know someone. Let's line up for a picture. Get to know someone different. Don't talk to someone you've already met before. Have a conversation. How are you? Who are you? What do you do? Why are you here? What's going on with you? Is your soul happy? Ask a question, okay? Enjoy tea break. We have 15 minutes for tea break. I'm serious. Ask a question. Ask your friend, life is tough right now. Ask them, is your soul happy? How are you really feeling today? Okay? Let's take a photo. Lucy, would you like to join us for a photo? Let's take a picture and then we can have. You were phenomenal, my people. You have so many questions. Hi.